Hey there, thanks for tuning in. You're watching Dirt Bike Channel. I'm your host, Kyle Brotherson, and today I'm gonna continue setting up this 2019 250XC. This is my primary bike, or one of my primary bikes here for the next year or so. And so I've been setting it up, and if you've been watching the channel, you've been seeing me do some of the things like I installed a skid plate on it, I installed a rear disc guard, and today I'm going to be installing the red power valve auxiliary spring in the bike. I've got it right here in this little toolkit. KTM sends these things with you on the carbureted bikes, so they send you a little packet here that's got, I don't know how well you can see that, but it'll have a couple of springs. The yellow spring is typically in these bikes from stock, which is an intermediate power valve spring, and then you've got a green one and a red one in here. I've talked about it before, but I prefer the red spring in these bikes. I'm just one man, so some people prefer the yellow spring, some people prefer the green spring. The yellow spring is an intermediate spring, keeps the power valve fully closed longer, whereas the red spring lets the power valve fully open sooner at a lower RPM. And the green auxiliary spring here is a more heavy duty spring. It keeps the power valve closed for, fully closed for a longer time. Basically, you have to be at a higher RPM. I prefer the red spring because I think it makes the power a little bit more linear. I like the power to come on sooner, and that's just the way I like them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how easy it is to swap these things out, and then you can make a determination of what you want. If you're not sure, usually I would just stay with the yellow spring, and then if you wanna experiment down the road, you can do that, and this will show you exactly how easy this is. We're gonna drop the bike down, we're gonna lay it over on its side, we'll pull out the two 6mm bolts here, and we'll get this done. Let's check it out. Okay, so first things first, make sure to turn your fuel off so you don't leak a bunch of gas out. And I say that because it's all gonna be on the carbureted bikes. On the TPI fuel injected bikes, KTM does not want you messing with the power valve, and so I'm not gonna recommend that you do that. This bike is a carbureted bike, and so I turn the fuel off, and then I lay the bike over. You might lose some gas out of your overflow tube, so just be cognizant of that. You might wanna put some towels down. So what do we need to make this happen? I'm just going to use a 6mm T-handle here for the two 6mm bolts here on the housing here. I've got my red spring. I'm going to use that, and then I've just got some shop towels. So that's all we really need to do this. I'm going to move the camera a little bit closer. We'll do a straight down shot looking at this so you guys can see exactly what's happening here. Okay, as mentioned, 6mm T-handle here. And this is under pressure, so I like to just kind of push down on this, and you'll see what I mean about it being under pressure. There's spring pressure on this thing. By the way, I like these new AXP skid plates that make it easy to get this power valve into the power valve here without having to take the skid plate off. I used to modify those with a hacksaw. Now I don't have to anymore. Okay, so that comes off, and you'll see this is your preload. I'm going to get just a towel here. This is that preload adjustment. This little brass, I think it's brass, the brass bolt, and this will adjust the preload on this spring inside here. So essentially, what's going to happen is we've got a spring. You'll see it's a spring inside of a spring here, and then you'll notice also, hopefully you can see the color, this is yellow. So that's the yellow spring. This is a brand new bike. I haven't ridden it at all. 2019 KTM 250XC, looks like I cut myself there. And so this yellow spring goes down inside of the main spring, right? And then that's pushing down on the power valve arm right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this little guy off of there. This, I don't know what you call this thing. This is the thing that actually goes right down on that power valve arm down inside of here. So I'll just wipe this off a bit. Here's the yellow spring is going to go back in the little tool pack, and I'm going to set that aside. I'll now just put this little guy on the end of the red spring. You can see that. So the red spring is a little bit lighter duty. If I compare the red and the yellow is harder for me to compress down. It's a stiffer spring. This red spring is a lighter spring. It's easier for me to compress. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the green spring would be over here. It's even harder to compress. So we want this lighter duty spring. Less preload is essentially what it is. And then I'm going to take and slip this spring down inside of the other one just like that. And now the way that this works is this spring essentially goes on here. This is how this all goes back together, just like that, okay? And then I'm gonna drop this down in, and you wanna line this up. There is a little shoe or a little foot or arm down in here. You wanna make sure that you get it on that arm. You look at the way that this is lined up, and you look at the way that that is lined up down inside of there, and you say, okay, we're gonna drop it down just like that. I know that's lined up. And then I'm gonna take this, and I'm going to go and push that down in. And I like to push it down in and keep the pressure off of those bolts because I don't want to strip those bolts, right? So then I'm just gonna lightly and carefully start them threading. Start on one side. And I don't want any pressure because I don't want to strip them out. So I'm pushing down with my finger here onto the housing, and now, and sorry if the angle isn't the greatest, and then I'm going just like this and putting these, snugging those bolts down, those little 6mm bolts. And I do this evenly because I don't want to, you know, have any funny pressure on this. Now, the reason why we tipped the bike over, I probably should have explained that. If you don't tip the bike over, you're gonna do a gear oil change when you pull this out. So when you pull that out, you're gonna have a ton of gear oil coming out, which is why we tip the bike over like this. That way all the oil runs to the other side and we're not essentially doing an impromptu gear oil change. That's it, guys. That's how we swap that power valve. So then this preload adjustment right here, you can buy from KTM a little tool, this little square tool, to adjust this, fine tune it back and forth. I like to run them about a turn to a turn and a half in from flush. That's usually, and so I'm not gonna even play with this one. I'm just gonna go ride it because I think it's fine. But as you put more preload on that to screw it in, that is like using a heavier spring, and as you loosen it and take less and pull more preload out, it's like running a lighter duty spring. So if you're going to adjust this, I say do small increments. Don't do a whole huge thing at a time. Just do it very, very slowly, okay? That's my tip on that. That's it, guys. Relatively simple, very, very simple. All you need is your extra springs and 6mm, and then lay the bike over. It helps if you got some shop towels. If you don't lay the bike over, you're gonna be doing an impromptu gear oil change, which is never fun to do. And that's one step closer to making this bike how I want to ride it. I've got my skid plate on, or my skid plate here, AXP skid plate. I've got my Bulletproof Designs rear disc guard on there. I've got the red spring in here. I still need to install tubeless. I need to lean out the carburetor, either lean out the carburetor for my altitude or install Electron. I haven't decided, or even a smart carb. Try that out. But I think I'll probably do a video here real soon just showing you how easy it is to lean out the carburetor, because jetting isn't rocket science and it doesn't take like 1,000 years to learn. So I might just do a video on that, just showing how quick and easy it is to swap jets out in the carburetor, because a lot of people think that's pretty tricky, and I haven't done a video like that for a while, and I have to get this bike set up to ride, so I may do a video on that. I also need to set the sag on this bike, a couple other things. That's pretty much it though. Yeah. So if you like these videos, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We do some stuff over there. A lot of times you can stay a little bit more current with what's going on. If you want to support us, dirtbikechannel.com/parts. I've got parts and affiliates links over there. I also have an Amazon affiliate link. I know the holidays are coming up, guys. If you guys click on my Amazon link and then do all your holiday shopping, it won't cost you anything, but it is a way for you to help support my family. So please look at doing that. And I also have a Patreon page. If you go over to patreon.com/dirtbikechannel, you can support everything that we're doing here, and I would be forever in your debt. So appreciate it, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video.